This will be the most shocking thing you see on the internet today. 29,000 kids are missing right now. There is no national public missing person database. The only missing children that are legally required to be reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children are missing foster kids. As of December 31st, 2023, NCIC contained 96,955 active missing person records. Juveniles under the age of 18 accounted for 29,451. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children only shows 4,023 kids missing. In 2017, a United States soldier went missing. He went to Iraq and Afghanistan. They're looking for him, right? No. In 2024, a CID official saw our flyer. They did a soft search on NCIC. They discovered police made contact in 2022. He gave his real name, date of birth, and they took a picture. Despite this, they had no idea he was missing. If they won't find a soldier, how much more energy is put into anyone else? If they're not looking, and they're not telling you people are missing, how will they be found? Save our children, follow MPIA, demand transparency.
Okay. No, do we have Blake here?
Hi, I'm here. Thank you.
All right. I'm Tessa,
I'm Jessica.
and today we're interviewing Blake, who is Shannon Collins' brother. Right? Blake, do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about your brother before we start?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you so much. My brother I just wanted to start by saying that number one, I appreciate the time very much and the opportunity to have the discussion today about my brother. My brother was a good man, and it's surreal, I guess, to say the least, to be having this conversation with you today about what's transpired over the last 3+ years. But my brother was a good man who helped everything he could do to help people was the type of person he was. He had a long military career. He was a great inspiration to me growing up, and somebody I was close to. We had a good family relationship, and he was just a good man, and he has been sorely missed by my family. And where we are today it's a sad situation, but he was a good man who did everything in his power to help his community and help others and help our country and serve this country. And it's again, as I've said, it's a difficult position to be in having this conversation with you today, but I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Now, we did do a reel for Shannon a few weeks ago.
Member of the United States Army.
You are my brother. You are my sister.
You are brave
And full of courage.
You're my son.
You are my daughter.
You're a peacekeeper.
I am proud of my country and its flag.
You stand tall.
You make
You
me
make me
proud.
proud.
You keep your promises.
You keep me safe. You're my hero.
You keep freedom alive.
For I am an American soldier.
Now, Blake, can you tell us the story about how your brother went missing?
Yes, ma'am. It's quite a long story, so I'll try to be as concise as I can. There's a lot of details involved, but I guess I could start back with December 2020 timeframe. We were in the early beginnings or about to begin the COVID stage that we all remember in 2021. But what had happened right before that is my brother and my mom and dad, my sister and I, we all had regular contact with Shannon. And right around December 2020, my brother's stepdaughter was getting married. And during this time, of course, my mom and dad, we were all invited to the wedding. Well, my mom and dad had explained to my brother at that time that due to COVID and their health issues and concerns that they still have to this day, they were advised by their doctor not to be attending any social gatherings. And unfortunately, at the time when my brother heard that, he was hurt and upset by it. And so he wasn't talking to my mom and dad and my sister and I as regularly during that time because he was upset. Now, at the time, my family all lived in the central Arkansas area where we're from, but I lived in Austin, Texas, which I still live today, or where I still live today. And so I wasn't having as regular contact with my brother during this time, but we had a lapse in communication because of the issue over the wedding. And so fast forward a few months into COVID, my brother in early 2021, my brother and my sister and I were having communications over text. She was talking to him on the phone at that time, but he still wasn't talking to my mom and dad at that point. But he had come to the conclusion that he was wrong and he shouldn't have been upset like he was, even though he was hurt by the fact that they couldn't attend the wedding. So we were in the early stages of healing that issue that we had and getting back to normal. Well, unfortunately, this was February 2021. As I mentioned, my sister and I were talking to him. I was having text conversations with him. And the last time I ever had any kind of contact with him was February 18th, 2021. My sister, I think a few days before that in 2021, had a text message with him as well. Well, fast forward to March, and we find out that nothing at that time, because what makes this story so interesting is we don't know for 9 months that he's missing. So my brother goes missing, but we don't know that he's missing. And the reason we don't know that is because we're being consistently lied to by everyone in my brother's family, his immediate family, his wife, his stepdaughter, his son, everyone involved. No one's telling us anything. What they're telling us, and again, I'm 600 miles away in Texas, but they're having regular communication with my sister, who was local, and they're telling stories such as, oh, he's out on the road working. At one point, it was he left the family. We don't want anyone to know he's left the family. We don't want to be embarrassed by it. We don't want to embarrass him, but he's left our family. That was the first thing my sister's told. And so I'm getting this information secondhand and I'm hearing it thinking, well, that doesn't sound right. Even if this is the case, which I don't believe it to be, but it's possible, he would at least answer our text messages. We're calling, we're texting on a regular basis, and he's never responded. So fast forward a few months later, April, May timeframe 2021, my brother's family, wife, sister, stepdaughter, and son are visiting my sister. And my sister literally corners my brother's wife in her dining room and says, "Where is Shannon at?" And that's when she first said, "Oh, he left the family." As if fast forward a few more months, and now more people of my brother's family are coming to my sister's house again. And now they're saying, "Oh, he's out on the road. We're communicating with him regularly." He had retired. He had been discharged from the military, honorable discharge, due to disabilities that had occurred while he was in service. And so he was taking a side job, just taking routes, driving 4, 6, 8 hour stretches sometimes just for extra money and just as a side job. She's telling my sister, "Oh, he's out on the road working, but we're talking to him regularly. He's calling us, he's texting us, we're all having conversations with him." Well, as I continue to hear these details, I'm starting to suspect something is very wrong, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't want to accuse somebody of something. I just knew that what I was hearing didn't make any sense. And so during this time, now we're being told that he is calling and texting them from a brand new phone number, a brand new cell phone number. Something I'd never been told, something I'd never heard. My brother had the same cell phone number for, I believe, probably close to 20 years. I myself have the same cell phone number for more than 20 years. So hearing he has a new number, this makes no sense to us whatsoever. I start getting suspicious. I've been suspicious, but now I'm really concerned. But again, you're talking about somebody that you've known for 20 years, somebody who has been married to your brother for 20 years. You've watched their kids grow up. You're there when they're born, and you find out that they're telling us these things that don't make any sense. So I tell my sister in July, August timeframe of 2021, when I come home for the holidays, I'm going to report Shannon missing. And when I do that, that happens in November 2021. That's when everything begins to unfold. Because if you don't mind, I wanted to briefly mention that we have created a Facebook page. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to write a story about what happened. And the reason I wanted to write the story was twofold. I wanted people, number one, to know why it took so long to report my brother missing. That was the first piece. And the second piece was I wanted to tell the story of what we had been told and what we had learned from police. And that's where the story really gets unbelievable, because when I report him in November of 2021, the same day, police go and have a conversation with my brother's wife. And at the time, it's my brother's wife and my brother's son. They interview them for 2+ hours. They have transcripts, recorded transcripts of that interview. And that's when she tells police that my brother had just walked away from the home, just simply walked away on March 12th, 2021. So now remember, this is November 2021. So almost 9 months have passed. And this whole time, they're completely lying to us about everything. But we at that moment don't know they're lying. We don't uncover all the lies until the police start investigating into their finances, into their cell phone usage. And that's when the story really gets interesting.
We have a news video from not too long ago about his story.
An Arkansas Army veteran missing for 3 years. Now investigators are saying the details surrounding his disappearance don't add up. THV 11's Carter Thweed spoke with them about what's made their search difficult and a family member still hoping for answers.
Shannon Collins was last seen here in the small town of Pottsville. He's been missing since March of 2021, but it wasn't reported until November of that year.
And so that's when we decided to report him missing.
Collins' sister, Holly Beckwith, says his wife and kids claimed he was traveling and that they were in contact with him.
They came down to visit me, just in my dining room over there, and I just had a good visit, but at the same time, I still was trying to figure out why my brother wasn't around.
According to Beckwith, she and her other brother believed the story for a while, but after months went by with no further contact from Collins, they informed the Pope County Sheriff's Office. Lieutenant Jacob Yarbrough has been investigating the case since then.
His brother, his sister, his parents are in agony.
Yarbrough told me conversations with Collins' immediate family haven't been very successful.
We went back for follow-ups and they weren't talking to us. They said they wanted counsel. And so even to this day, we welcome them to come down and talk to us.
I also tried to get in touch with Collins' wife and kids, but never heard back. This week, the Sheriff's Office released an update reading, in part, investigators are looking at this case as a missing person with foul play involved. Beckwith says she fears they're right about her brother.
I mean, at this point, I feel like he is not alive, and that I don't know how that happened or what happened.
Beckwith and her other brother still run a Facebook page called Share Shannon's Story to help make people aware. And while Lieutenant Yarbrough says he can't share everything he knows about the case, his department will continue to work towards solving it.
Our goal is to find Shannon. And there are people that can help with that, and we're willing to talk with them.
In Pottsville, Carter Thweet, THV 11 News.
Now, anyone who has information on Shannon Collins is encouraged to call the Polk County Sheriff's Office. We'll post that number in this story on THV11.com.
No, Blake, sorry, lost my train of thought. It was on the record that she gave false reports to the police department and the police department called her out for that, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That is exactly right. And that's where, as I mentioned about the story getting interesting, and once he's reported missing in November of 2021, we begin to find out details, but we don't, those details that we hear from police are obviously 9 months from the beginning of this. And again, that goes back to why I wrote the story, because it's easy from the outside looking in to say, why did it take so long for these guys to report him missing, report his family member missing? And it's because we were lied to for 9 months. And those lies all start on that first interview with Shannon's wife and son, and later the stepdaughter. And what we find out is she tells police that when he comes home on March 11th, 2021, that's a Friday, he had been out of town on a delivery, and he had actually had met a woman previously, because the backstory, which again, everything I'm going to say is in the story that I've written. My brother had been seeing a woman because he had told my brother's wife that he no longer wanted to be married to her. And this was a known fact that he had told us for much, much longer before he ever went missing. We were aware of this as a family. He had told us this. He had told his wife that he no longer wanted to be with her. And he said that he wanted to stay with her until his son graduated college. And at the time of his disappearance, it had been because he wanted his son to be in a position where he had everything he needed once he graduated college to have a good footing. And so he had told her he wanted the marriage to be over. And he was in the process, from my understanding, of making that happen when he disappeared. But he had been seeing another woman. And the reason I bring that up is I wanted to be transparent and honest about it, obviously. My brother was a good man, but he wasn't perfect. He had his flaws like we all do. But I just wanted to be clear on the fact that this wasn't a normal situation of somebody having a spouse and doing things they shouldn't be doing. He had made it clear that he no longer wanted to be with her, and she was well aware of that. And the reason I mention it as well is that plays into the story, because he was gone the entire week before he returned to his home on March 11, 2021. He comes home around 10:30 p.m. that night. And when he does, we know from conversations with police that she was well aware of the fact that he was out of town, that she was tracking his movements, essentially. So we know from police that that's what she was doing. So she was well aware of what was going on and who he was with. And he had been with this woman. He comes home. She tells police that he comes home that night. They had an argument at some point, but they go to bed, and then she wakes up, and they wake up at some point, I guess. And she says he walks away from the home in the early morning hours of March 12th, 2021. Well, what's interesting about that is his stepdaughter, tells police later, and the only time she ever talked with police in a phone call, that she saw him get in the vehicle with someone and drive away. But on the morning of March 12th, but when that happens, they ask, do you know the person? Give me a description of the person, type of car. She can't give any explanation on any car, anything whatsoever. So they have two conflicting stories. But what she also tells police, my brother's wife, is that he must have been calling from a brand new cell phone. He must have lost his cell phone, because I'm getting calls and texts from a brand new number. That's what she tells police. So what's interesting about that is they find out when they start reviewing her phone records that they call the service provider. And when they do, they find out that my brother's wife and I believe his son call the service provider, and they try to pose as Shannon, and they're trying to get an access code so they can get into Shannon's phone. But the problem with that is they don't know the email address that the access code is being sent to, so they can't get into the phone. So that's the first red flag right there. What's going on? Why are they trying to break into the phone? They told police that he must have lost that phone, yet they're trying to call AT&T to get into that phone. So focus on that, and you start to see the picture of what happened here. But what's even more interesting is only a day or so after they try to get in, they break into the phone, his original cell phone. Police know that his wife then goes to a local retailer and buys a brand new cell phone, and then takes that cell phone and begins making text messages posing as Shannon and sending all kinds of text messages to different members of the family, saying that it's Shannon, that I'm in a mental facility. I'm giving you paraphrased examples of some of these text messages. I want you to have all the money. I'm going to get help, and once I get help, I'll come home. These are the types of things that are coming through these text messages, and there's many, many text messages. And police find out that not only did she buy the phone, but she's also sending all these text messages. So, but what's interesting about all of this is we don't know any of this until later in the investigation, because the only time that my brother's wife ever talks to police is the first time they come to ask him and do a welfare check. So they have the 2.5-hour conversation. They come back not long after that just to ask a few follow-up questions. That's all they were doing. But when they did, she said, I don't want to talk to you. I want a lawyer. And she's never once talked to the police again. So we didn't know any of this information I just told you until much later, because it took time for them to get warrants and do the investigation. But at that time, when they go back for the follow-up, they give her a warrant, and that's when they search the home for the first time. And that's when all the lies and all the things begin to unravel that they had been telling us for the previous 9 months.
Now, to your knowledge, do you know if there is anyone else that had any knowledge that she is the one that purchased the phone and was making those text messages?
Well, that's a good question. What we have found out since the investigation we found out that those text messages, obviously there were family members who were getting the text messages. I can't definitively say right now who knows what about that phone. I do know that after the investigation began, there were other family members who said that they were aware of the phone, but I don't know the context of how they were aware of the phone. So that's somewhat of a difficult question to answer, just because I don't want to speak out of turn about what may have been said, because I just don't know. But I know that for many months, that we have, one of the things that we had given to police is one of my family members, actually my sister, had asked my brother's stepdaughter in July, I believe it was July 2021, we find out about the cell phone. Now, when they say that they tell my sister that he's, at one point, someone tells my sister, and I don't know who told her, because it was either my brother's wife or my brother's stepdaughter, but somehow this new phone number comes into play in 2021 before the investigation ever begins in November 2021. And I'm hearing about this information later, but at some point, they tell my sister that he's texting from this new phone number, which again, we find interesting because we haven't been given a number. We're calling and texting the old phone number, the original number, and he's not answering. But now they're telling my sister that they're getting text from this new number. He must have lost his phone, which is what they tell police later. Well, what's funny about that is my sister in July point blank asked my brother's stepdaughter, are you saying that he is texting you from his original cell phone number that we've always known, or is he texting you from this new cell phone number? And what's interesting is at that point, she tells my sister, oh no, he's texting us from his original cell phone number. And so now we're thinking, well, why are you talking about a new cell phone number if he's texting from the original? So my sister thinks about it and she can't get it out of her mind. So she literally texts my brother's stepdaughter later that night and says, hey, I just want to clarify. I'm paraphrasing, but she said, essentially, I just want to clarify. Are you saying again that Shannon is texting from his original cell phone number, or is he texting from the new cell phone number you have? And at that point, she literally writes in text message, no, he is texting us from his original cell phone number. Now, why is that so important? Because that proves that she was lying and covering up my brother's disappearance for months before we ever reported him missing to police in November 2021. So they're all lying. They're all involved. They all know that he's quote unquote missing, disappeared, and they're lying and telling us that he's out on the road, he's left the family, he's doing these things. But we have in writing, which we have given to police, that they lied and said different conflicting stories about the text messages.
Was anybody ever given that new phone number to attempt to try to get in touch with Shannon?
No, ma'am. We have never been given that number. Police obviously have the number, but we have never been given the number. I mean, that's when I knew that something wasn't right. When I start hearing this number, this idea of a new cell phone. I mean, my brother was one of the most talkative people you could ever meet. I mean, he would text like anyone would, but he loved to talk to people. He loved people. He would talk for hours and hours at a time. He would call my mom and dad on a regular basis, myself and my sister as well. And if you would talk to him for 4 hours, he probably would talk to you for 4 hours on the cell phone. So when I'm hearing about that, not only is he not answering any phone calls or text messages and not calling us back and not texting, which is not normal, I'm hearing about a new number, and I'm thinking if he had a new number, he would give us this number. But of course, that never happened. So that's the long answer to not only do we not have the number, no one in my family has ever received that phone number or has any knowledge of what that number is outside of the police, to my understanding.
Do you know if the police ever pinged either of those numbers?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They well, let me back up. I'm sorry, I don't want to speak out of turn there. I'm not sure. I'm assuming they did. I know they do have ping information. That I do know, location information. I don't know all the specifics behind it, but they definitely have lots and lots of data about the cell phones. What all data do they have? That I don't know, but I do know that they, like for example, they know that my brother arrived at the house on March 11th at 10:30, 2021, around that time frame, 10:30 p.m. They know that when he arrived, my brother's wife and my brother's son was in that house the night that he arrived. They know that the next morning, my brother's stepdaughter goes over to the house, and she's nearly, I think, an hour and a half, 2 hours late to work that morning. So they have enough data that pretty much anything you can think of on a cell phone, they have it. And like I said, there in the story I write, there's a lot of information about the cell phone data, but there's lots and lots of information that I don't have. So, but to answer the question, they did ping it. I know that they have location data on where that phone's sat for the vast majority of the time, and I think that's part of the reason they can prove that she's the one who bought the phone along with the text messages as well.
Sure. Has the woman that he was seeing been contacted, interviewed? What is she said? Has there been anything about them living together, anything like that?
Oh, good question. Yes, ma'am. Not only has she been contacted, but she has been completely cooperative with police. Now, I'll say that I've never met the woman, don't know the woman. No one in my family does, to my knowledge, has ever met the woman, ever talked to the woman. I know from police that she not only was cooperative, but she told them everything about their relationship. I don't have any specifics about the relationship. I think my speculation is that it was too new when it happened for him to ever talk to us about it. So I don't know how long that he was seeing her, but I do know that they were, from my understanding, that they had a good relationship and that she was very, very surprised that she never heard from him again. I think she told police, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but she told police that um, that the last time they talked, that they had a great time, and that she was just very surprised not to ever hear from him again. And she just assumed that he had decided he didn't want to talk to her or whatever the case might be. But she was very surprised not only that he never called her back or never had any other contact with her, but she was even more surprised when police were the ones who contacted her and told her that he was missing. So she's been completely cooperative. And out of respect for her, again, I guess I've never met her, don't know anything about her, but out of respect for her, I think that's a good thing because she didn't ask for this just like we didn't. But she has been definitely cooperative and helpful to police where she could.
Now, did they ever get a search warrant for his home?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I don't have a lot of specifics about anything that they gathered. I do know that they received some electronic devices and things of that nature. Don't have any specifics on anything outside of that, but I know they have done searches of the home. They had a property that they've had in their family. I believe it was about 20 plus acres. They've had for many years on my brother's wife's side of her family that they owned. And I think, I'm not sure about the detail, but I think her family owned it. And I don't know how that worked with the actual ownership when my brother disappeared, but they've done a search there. I don't know the extent of that. I know that they have a vehicle that they had impounded, which to this day is still sitting in the impound. But I don't have a lot of specific details, but I do know that they have done searches of the home.
Okay, you don't know if there was any weapons or anything like that taken in?
No, ma'am, I don't know of anything specific. I mean, I know there were many guns in the house because there were different individuals that lived there, like my brother's son, my brother. I know that they own guns. I don't know. I'm assuming guns were taken. I don't know any specifics of any types of guns, but I'm pretty sure that guns were taken. I just don't know any specifics on it.
Okay. And the recent events that just happened, can you tell us about them?
Yes, ma'am. That's a very important part of the story. We were surprised to find out that recently my brother's wife and stepdaughter have been indicted on federal felony charges for fraud for multiple counts, different types of fraud. On my Facebook page on Share Shannon's story, we actually we're posting the documents that we're receiving about the federal indictments, and we'll continue to do that. But they all stem from my brother's pension payments, disability pension. He was in the military for 24 years. When he was discharged, the reason for that was because of his disability injuries that he had sustained, and he received a pension of I believe close to $4,000 a month, somewhere in that range. And when he quote unquote disappeared, they never reported him missing. No one in the family, not the son, the son-in-law, daughter-in-law, no one reported him missing. My brother's brother-in-law, sister-in-law, any of their kids, no one ever reported him missing. And so the charges stem from the fact that they continued to receive these payments and spend that money every month for months and months and months and never notified anyone of the situation. And so I don't have any other details outside of that. But like I said, you can go to our Facebook page and you can see every document because we will continue to post any documents we receive.
I'm sorry.
Oh, the name. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you could just say the name of your page again.
Yeah, my apologies. I had an audio issue there. The name of our page is Share Shannon Story. And on that page, not only will you see the story that I've written about my brother's disappearance, but you will see all the documents on these felony fraud charges that have just occurred. I mean, this just happened a little over a week ago. I believe October 9th is when we found out about it. They had arraignments scheduled earlier this past week, and they've been postponed until the 30th of October. And now we found out that my brother's stepdaughter, and she is actually has a trial date, an initial trial date of November 18th, coming up in just about a month, November 18th, 2024. So we'll continue to keep folks posted at Share Shannon's Story, but it's been unbelievable. We knew that there was a federal investigation that was ongoing into these payments and potential fraud, but we just didn't have any specifics about it. We've tried to learn more about it, but the federal people involved have been very tight-lipped, which I can't blame them. I think that's probably very smart on their part, but we haven't learned anything specific about anything until recently, and that's when we were grateful but surprised to see these charges finally come. It's been a process of 2+ years, I believe, that this has been ongoing, and so we were grateful to hear the news.
Now with that, are they currently sitting in jail, or are they out on bail?
That is a very good question. I don't know the full answer to that. I will say that on our Facebook page, you will see the conditions of release for my brother's stepdaughter, Brittany. So that tells me obviously that she is not in jail, but I haven't seen anything for my brother's wife, Teresa Collins. So I don't know if she is sitting in jail currently, or she is. I just don't know what the process is. I mean, my assumption is that it's possible that she's in jail, but I don't know that because I'm just not familiar enough with the process. But we have seen that his stepdaughter, Brittany Collins, does have a condition of release, which tells us obviously she's not in jail currently, but I haven't seen that from my brother's wife, Teresa Collins. So I'm not sure if she is or isn't, but that's a very good question. I'd like to know the answer myself.
Now, I don't have any more questions. Jessica, do you have any more questions?
I have maybe a few questions. Just going back to March of 2021, there is record that he was at the house on March 11th. As far as March 12th goes, just to clarify, all we have to go on is what his wife and his stepdaughter said. There's nothing trackable of him leaving on the 12th, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That is correct. From my understanding and what I have seen and what police know, there is not a single shred of evidence that he is alive as of the last time that he goes home on March 11th, 2021, around 10:30 p.m. The next day, his wife says he walked away. His stepdaughter says he drove away. His car to this day is sitting in their driveway in the house that he lived in with them, that they still live in. It's still sitting in the driveway with his disabled veteran tags on it. So you want me to believe that a man who is sitting in his home with 3 different vehicles chooses to walk away, not take a bag, not take any possessions, not take any money, and just decides to walk away with his car sitting in the driveway? A man who was happy with a woman he had been seeing, according to police and her conversations with them, he just decides to walk away with nothing, and he's never been heard from again. So,
and a veteran at that, who military men are very prepare for what they're going to do, next steps, that kind of thing.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And one last thing I'd like to add quickly, if you don't mind, is what I love is my brother can walk into any VA facility in the country right now And if he does, he can show them an ID and tell them who he is, and he'll immediately begin receiving his pension payments again.
Yes.
And on top of that, as of now, it would be in the $100,000+ range in back pay they would owe him. So all he'd have to do is walk in and show an ID, and he'd get a check for $100,000+, plus he would begin his new payments again. But he hasn't done that, and I think we all know why he hasn't done that. So my hope is these indictments and where we're at will hopefully lead to other things. So we'll see what happens, but that is the hope of our family.
Now, Blake, do you have any more questions, Jessica?
I don't think right now. I've got some more detailed questions, but as far as everything that we've talked about, you've really cleared it up.
Well, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have. I mean, you mentioned detailed. I'll do my best to answer them if that's something you need.
I'm super invested and really have paid attention and that kind of thing. So there was mention of recent after March 12th that there was a bandage on the wife's arm.
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
tell me anything about that? If that was true, if it was just speculation?
Oh, no, great question. Well, that information, according to my conversations with police, that information came from my brother's son-in-law when he spoke with police at one point, that she had a bandage on her arm, and she had willingly admitted to the police that they had been in some type of argument. Now, what I find interesting about that is my brother, my brother was not a violent person. I am 46 years old, and I grew up with my brother in very close proximity, and I don't even remember my brother and I ever having a physical fight, like a lot of brothers do. I mean, we would wrestle and get mad at each other, and a few things here and there, but actual physical fights, no. My brother wasn't a violent person. This just wasn't in his nature. You know what I mean? So it's just funny to hear that she had a bandage on her arm, because if she had a bandage on her arm, it tells me that something occurred that wasn't expected, and definitely not something that my brother would have initiated, because that's just not the type of person that he was. But yes, ma'am, that information came from my brother's son-in-law, who to this day is married to my brother's stepdaughter. And the reason I say that is the fact that he told me in a phone call in March of 2022 that he was starting to see that they had done this, and that he was fearful for his life, and his family was fearful for his life, and he didn't know what to do. And I can't believe I not see all these things. These are things coming out of his mouth to me. But here we go in March, or excuse me, of October 2024, and he's still with her as if nothing ever happened. So I've always had an issue in my mind trying to resolve, how does that work? How are you fearful in March 2022, and then October 2024, you're still with her? It's hard to fathom, but that information did come from this. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And then also, hold on. There was actually that is probably with the indictment, and I should probably not ask you, because you probably aren't allowed to speak about it right now. So I am done with my questions. If you have any more, Tessa.
Nope, I have no more. Now, Blake, what would you like the community to do and help with Shannon's story?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that question. I was just going to add real quick on top of that. I was just going to say, for anyone who could, if they could go to Share Shannon's Story on Facebook and read the story that I've written. And when I say that, I'll mention that there are two versions. There's a condensed version that will give you, it's literally 5 pages or less. With the actual information, it's a little over 3 pages, so it doesn't take long to read. The full story is 55 pages. And so the reason it's so long is I wrote it, as I was mentioning earlier, the first part of that 55-page story it conveys the 9 months of him missing and all the things that we had experienced as a family and why it took so long to report him. The second part of that story is the investigation and what actually happened and what we learned from police. And when you read that story, and I know 55 pages is a lot, but if you read that story, it'll be pretty simple to come to the conclusion of what happened here. And I'll never say publicly what we believe happened, but we definitely have our opinions as a family. And it's pretty interesting to read. So what I would ask is for anyone listening to this, if they could not only read that story so they could come to their own conclusions, but if they would be willing to share our page and that story and our content to other folks. We want everybody on this earth to know the type of people that my brother's family is, because these people, it's like something out of a movie. It's surreal to see these people who, as I mentioned, we grew up with, watch their kids grow up, and to completely turn on us as if we never existed. It's hard to fathom. People that are supposed to be people of faith, people that are supposed to do and live by principles that we would all be proud of. And this is the way that they've done things and treated our family. The minute we reported him missing, they've never spoken to us since. They told the community that we didn't care about Shannon, that we didn't love him, and that he didn't want to talk to us. These are the types of things and the types of people that these people are. And so it hurts us to the core that not only do we not have Shannon and that he's gone, but we've seen the lies to our community, to our family, to everyone involved. They've lied repeatedly. And so we want everyone to know the truth. And that's one of the main reasons I wrote the story. I want people to know the truth about who these people are and what they've done. And I want people to see it. So if you could go to share Shannon's story and read the story and follow us and share that content with anyone and everyone, we would greatly appreciate it. That would be a huge help for our family and to get the truth out, because that's all we've ever tried to do is speak the truth. There's nothing we've ever written, posted, or anything that's ever been said from our family that isn't 100% verifiable and true. And I want everyone in the public to know that, especially the town where they're from and the way they've lied to that community and hidden behind the church and other people. I want people to know the truth about the type of people they are. So if your listening audience could help us by continuing to share Shannon's story and going to that Facebook page, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yes, we'll link that below.
No, I want to thank you for your time today and letting us help you spread the word about your brother Shannon.
Well, thank you very much. And if you don't mind, I just wanted to quickly add, I want to say thank you to not only you and your audience, but I want to say thank you to everyone that is a part of our Facebook community now for Share Shannon's Story. I cannot tell you how grateful and appreciative we are of everything that people have done to try to help, to try to spread the message. You'll never know how much we appreciate you and how much our family appreciates everything you've done, and hopefully we'll continue to do until we can bring Shannon home, because we cannot tell you how grateful we are and how thankful we are. So thank you to you, and thank you for everybody that's a part of our Facebook community. We greatly and truly appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blake. We appreciate you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.